So I am delighted to welcome to our Bookish Resistance vlog KM Enright, who wrote one of my favorite books of last year called Mistress of Lies. Welcome. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. Um,
I really appreciate being invited.
oh, of course, of course. I mean, I was so excited when you said you were available because I really, really loved Mistress of Lies, and I'm looking forward to the next book, which we'll talk about. And
Mm.
so, first of all, why don't you tell me about your journey to becoming a published author?
Well, I've always known that I wanted to be a writer pretty much as soon as I figured out that books were a thing that had to be made by someone. I got into reading very early, and it absolutely shaped my entire life. So for me, it was less a question of if I will write books, but more of a question of, like when I will write books. So, I after college, I was working a normal day job, but I was, determined to be a writer. So for about 4 years, I was just working on a series of books that I knew weren't good enough to be published. Like, they're your first things you write. They're very clunky, very formulaic. You're still figuring out how to string sentences together, let alone entire plots. But I took each one of those books as a learning lesson until I finally got to the point where I was confident enough in my writing to be able to think about um, pursuing publication. So, Mistress of Lies was my fourth book written, but the first one that I attempted to get published.
Tell me about this book because it starts with a murder.
Yes.
And it's just so good. And there is this very intricate sort of magic system
Mhm.
and very sort of well-rounded, world, fantasy world that we're living in. How did what is your method for world building and sort of like incorporating everything to make it feel like a real live place that we can all
Mhm.
picture ourselves in?
So there are two parts of this. First is I actually start with the characters before I come up with anything about the world because I am most interested as a writer in a character's arc. So then I want to create not just a story, but a world that challenges them, that challenges whatever their like flawed worldview is that they start with. I need to create a world that both supports the formation of that flawed worldview and then goes on to challenge them to understand why that worldview is flawed. And the other thing that I always keep in mind is actually it's a quote from Brandon Sanderson and his Rules of Magic. And it's basically um, you can't solve a problem in the plot with magic if you haven't explained how the magic works. So if I have to solve anything in the plot or the story with magic, I have to make sure that the system that I've built has that answer already factored into it. So those are like my two guiding lights when it comes to world building, what I'm trying to say about the characters and making sure that if I do pull some kind of solution later, I've set it up in the text beforehand.
Appreciate that. I mean, I am also I'm a character reader. My
Hmm.
husband is a story reader. Like, tell him a great story, and like if the characters are, he's okay with it. Whereas me, I have to be invested in the characters. I don't have to like them, but I have to
Yes.
be invested. I have to want to know what's going to happen to them. Otherwise, what's the point for me to read this book? And something that I don't appreciate is when it's, sort of plot armor. And like you're
Hmm.
saying, oh, we never knew that this, she had the power to do this, and we never
Hmm.
knew that this magic could do that. And all of a sudden, when it's really convenient,
Yep.
It happens. And, you know, that is something that does not happen in your books. Like you say, it's all built in from the beginning. And,
Hmm.
you know, as someone who was an editor once upon a time, I really appreciate that because I don't like those, you know, oh, okay, there were 30 assassins and he has no weapons, but he survived. Okay. You know, how does that happen?
Was he Superman? Is that how he survived?
Right? Right? Yeah, I don't know. Um, who do you find inspiring as far as reading or any other forms of art?
So, some of my, I have a very wide taste in what I like to read. I read everything from fantasy to romance to horror to manga. So I'm kind of just all over the board, which I think really helps inform me as a writer because genres are a guideline, not a straitjacket. But some of my favorites include V. Schwab. Um, Anne Rice was very formative on my writing at a young age. Um, Lee Mandello's work is something that I've been really loving lately. His debut, Summer Sons, is so good. And The Woods All Black is a novella that came out last year that is a historical horror about two trans men that is just absolutely fantastic.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my username is Claudia Reads It All.
Mm,
Because I read everything. My sort of lines are, you know, child abuse, animal
mm,
abuse. Like I don't like to read those things, just like
yeah.
I don't like to watch those things. Um, but I enjoy every genre. I think it's just, you know, different sort of parameters
Yeah.
to tell a story.
Yeah.
Um, and no, I appreciate that. I'm going to check out that book that you just mentioned. What do you do if you get writer's block? What do you find that you do?
So writer's block for me is usually a sign that I've taken the story in the wrong direction. Whether it's by, I've not quite figured out what the character arc should be, or I don't have a solution to this plot problem that I know needs a solution, or sometimes when I'm shying away from something I want to write because I'm worried it would be too contentious. So for me, it's usually just a sign from my gut that this isn't working and you gotta stop and kind of figure out what that problem is. And once I've figured it out, I can usually then proceed with writing the story.
That yeah, that does make sense. Do you find that you're a very sort of structured writer, or do you like what they call, are you what they call a pantser?
I'm very much a structured writer. I have outlines within outlines. I have spreadsheets and index cards. So I'm very much like, I'm the type of person who is just naturally very organized. My computer files are all just folders within subfolders within subfolders. So for me, sorry, I apologize for Zuko.
Oh no, no, he's totally welcome.
So for me, I admire the people who can discovery write or write by flying by the seats of their pants. But for me, I need to know literally everything that is going to happen in a story before I can start drafting it.
So do you find that having that structure gives you the freedom to kind of go everywhere while you're writing it?
Um, I definitely feel like it keeps the anxiety away, is what I'm going to say, because I have that roadmap. Um, and that allows me to stay focused until I hit a point where it's just like, okay, I hit a block, something isn't working. I've got to rework the outline a bit. I call my process kind of like iterative drafting because I will usually re-outline a book 6 or 7 times before I finish drafting it. And like usually like 3 or 4 outlines before I start drafting it at all. and then usually around the halfway point, I have to re-outline the second half of the book.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I, it's a kind of crazy process, and
But
I'm
it
not
works for
sure
you, clearly.
it works for me, but I'm not sure I'd wish it on my worst enemy.
Well, speaking of Mistress of Lies and what happens in that book, what
hmm
can you tell us without spoiling about the next book?
So the next book, Lord of Ruin, comes out this August. The cover is scheduled to be revealed on March 3rd, so that's next week now.
Nice. Okay.
What I can say that's not a spoiler is that Isaac gets promoted to a main character, and this book is very much his story. The way I consider it is book one is Sean's book, book two is Isaac's book, and book three is Samuel's book.
Okay. So we have a
So,
trilogy to look forward.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
I am so excited. I am very excited about this series. Um, Other than books two and three, what else is next for you?
Um, Sorry, that was my husband.
Oh, no worries. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I haven't officially sold my what's called the option project in the industry yet, but I'm toying with a couple of different ideas. Both of them are kind of like gothic romances, very queer, featuring trans characters. So I'm very excited to see what Orbit says about them, but until I get the official go ahead, I kind of still have to play it a little close to the chest.
That's totally okay. I just look forward to whatever you write next. Like with Mistress of Lies, I'm like,
Mm.
okay, they're an author for me because I just loved it so much. Um, what other than enjoyment
hmm
do you hope readers take away from your work?
Um, I think it varies from book to book. I'm very much a writer who is concerned about theme. And as much as I enjoy writing the spectacle of these stories, like, you've got this very complicated political intrigue, you've got romance and these vampiric blood magic users. I'm also trying to explore the question of, the system isn't broken, it's working exactly as intended. Um, and I very much want readers to, just take away that kind of like sometimes you're born into this society, into this world that doesn't have any good options. And the question is then what are you going to do to get out of it? What are you going to do to create a world that feels fairer, more equitable, better? And, what will you lose along the way?
Very cool. So I know that you said Mistress of Lies is your first published work.
Mm,
What would you say to an author who is looking to become a published writer? What would your
the
advice be?
the most important thing in any writer's journey is to find your writer friends, people who are going through similar stages of the process that you are, who are able to like be there to help you when you have a problem or cheerlead you on a day that feels particularly rough. Um, I know that I wouldn't be where I am right now without um, the writing group that I fell into. So I'm very lucky to have them. And they gave me so much very good advice, a safe place to vent, and, just the kind of creative joy of finding your people who get the kind of stories that you're trying to tell and help you to become better at that.
Sense of community. You're
Yeah.
all kind of going through things at the same time. Um, I think that is it. That is all the questions that I had for you.
Mm.
Thank you so much again for taking time out of your day to
Yes.
talk to me for a few minutes. And best of luck with the upcoming book. We'll have the
Yes.
reveal on the 3rd. right?
Yes, the cover reveal is coming the 3rd. The book is coming August 12th in the US and August 14th in the UK. Um, and I'm just very excited for everyone to read Isaac's story. Don't tell Sean, but he's my favorite.
I think he's a lot of readers' favorite. Sean is just hardcore, you know? Um, yeah, but Isaac, yeah, I'm looking forward to reading about Isaac. And again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Yes,
And yeah, looking forward to that cover reveal on 3rd.
yes.
Take
And thank
care.
you again so much for having me.
Of course. You take care and best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Bye.